This is Comic Geek Speak, episode 417, Off the Rack on Kingdom Come.
Kingdom Come.
Welcome to Comic Geek Speak. I'm Brian Deemer.
I'm Matt.
I'm Adam Murdo.
I'm Shane Kelly.
I'm Brian Chrisman.
I'm Jamie D.
I'm Peter Rios.
And welcome to the show.
Yes, welcome. Here's your Kingdom Come episode, bitches. This episode is presented by Angry Gnome Comics. They are proud to present Short Stack, a collection of 13 short stories written by Sean Gabarine and brought to life by 13 indie artists. The gimmick? Each story is told in 2 pages. Monsters, demons, slashers, and flat-out screwed-up people are just a few of the terrors awaiting you inside the first issue of Short Stack. Those artists include Dave Dwanch, Win Ryder, Roy D. Stiffy Jr., Chad Ciccone, Anthony Kane, Simon Wyatt, Stephanie Gabarine, Mia Paluzzi, Super Ugly, and of course Sean Gabarine. With 13 distinctive art styles and stories ranging from dark comedy to straight-up gore, there's sure to be something to whet your palate. And at 2 pages of story, this comic is perfect to keep on the nightstand or beside the toilet. Preview art and ordering information available at angrygnomecomics.com. And they'll also have Palm Reader issue 1 through 3 of 4 and Victor season 1 through 3 of 6 at the Pittsburgh Comic-Con. Booth number S085, Angry Gnome Comics.
Cool. All right, so this is an off-the-rack episode, starting with Kingdom Come, and that'll be a spoiler discussion, and then we're going to talk about some other stuff after we get done discussing Kingdom Come.
And I'm not kidding. This was requested. Actually, Wood was the one that threw it up on the forum, and he said, "What did he say? Like, why haven't we, or did we, or why haven't we done? Why didn't we?"
I think it was like a Book of the Month club. Why haven't they done this yet? Something like that.
And our go-to answer was, well, why hit all the biggies right away, and then we're not going to have anything for later, so. But they kept talking about it and kept talking about it. So we finally read it. Here we go.
Yep, nothing to say about it. Bye. That's it.
That's about my thoughts.
So where do we want to start?
I don't know.
Well, it came out in 1996. Kind of amazes me that it's been 12 years.
Actually, you had that. You had that Comicology book on it, right?
Yes, I do.
Did you find out any kind of cool, interesting information?
It gives a bit of a rundown on the origin of it and tells you a little bit about each of the heroes. And then throughout the whole explanation of it, it highlights like Crisis on Infinite Earths, and I know there's an Armageddon 2001 couple paragraphs, so it gives you a little bit of other things that have happened that they take from and have in the story in some fashion, or what was happening at the time that these things came out. It has an entire section of every character, like a little who's who, and it has in it, let's see, an interview with the Comicology guys, interviewing Mark Waid. It's pretty good. I mean, it's been a while since I've actually read through the whole thing, but it gives a good overview. At the time, there was nothing else like this out there about Kingdom Come, so it truly is a great companion.
It does. He gets into the kingdom a little bit too.
Yes. Came out in
Like 98?
I think so.
No, that's too late.
No, 1998. The companion
90?
came out. Yep.
Oh, the companion.
Yes.
I thought you meant Kingdom Come itself.
No, that was 96.
96.
Yeah. I can remember seeing the promo images for this book. It was an eagle versus a bat. There were other ones. And at the time, it was sort of like, whoa, what is this, you know? there wasn't much in the way of like hype that you could actually read about what it actually would be at that time, and it was promoted for months ahead of time because I would keep going. That was back when I was going to Pagoda, and I would say, has this book been out yet, or is it coming out soon? And they were like, no, we haven't heard anything about it yet.
If you'd gone to Golden Eagle, we could have told you all about it.
No, but I mean, this was really, they just had like that promo. It was in like all the comics. I mean, it was a while before, but.
Yeah. The Dreamer, the Thunder, the Bat, the Eagle, the Angel, whose will be done, Kingdom Come.
Yeah, and there was even one before that. So probably a few before that, actually. I think the Eagle's like holding an American flag in his talons and fighting a bat.
I totally missed this when it first came out because I had gotten Marvel off the shelf, but then 96 was like a period where I was going into the comic shop about once every 2 months and only buying Gru and one or two other books, and I wasn't even browsing off the shelf. I would go in, get my books, and leave, and I wasn't a big DC guy at the time, so I totally missed it. But I bought the trade in 97 because 97 I got back into comics in full force, and I think it was John at Golden Eagle who recommended that I check it out because I knew who Alex Ross was, so...
What's amazing, the trade and the hardback versions came out in 97. It spawned a novel by Elliot S. Maggin in 1998, as well as an audio drama, a full cast audio drama, not to mention the numerous toy lines that DC Direct put out after that and statues.
So why does it get all this attention?
Because
I think it was...
What?
Yeah, go ahead.
For me, it's honestly one of the best stories ever written, as far as I'm concerned. I know people are gonna, drop over that I'm praising a DC story like this.
DC, really?
But I've read this numerous times, and every time I read it, I find something new in it. I haven't read it in probably about 3 or 4 years, and I was really hoping we would read it again because I hadn't read it for a while. And I just think this is Mark Waid writing a story, hitting every cylinder correct. Alex Ross at the top of his game, and to me, it's just an amazingly put together story that I can't find many major flaws in at all. Not that I've really ever looked for a lot of flaws, and I'm sure, and if I sat down, I could find some. But I loved it. I loved it off the shelf. I would sit there and I would look at it time and time again. There are still times when you just say Kingdom Come, and I will go to... my mind goes strictly right to this page with Bruce Wayne taking out Billy Batson.
Oh, yeah.
And to me, I couldn't believe that I didn't see that coming. And it's still, to me, that scene right there will forever live in my memory. And it's just, I just think it's one of the most perfectly written stories they've ever had.
See, it must be DC that polarizes us, Jamie, because I read this again and I went, yeah, now I know why I wasn't all that excited about it when I first read it, because I really don't think it's very good at all. I obviously Alex Ross's art is great. I mean, that's beside the point. But I think if this book was not illustrated by Alex Ross and this was drawn by anybody else, we would not be sitting here talking about it. Nobody would remember this story. It would just be a throwaway, okay, whatever, there was some Elseworlds book, it came out, and that's that. Because I don't think it has any of the emotional intensity that Marvel's has. I was really... When Peter said we had to read this, I went, oh, okay, it's been a while, I haven't read it. And then I started reading, I went, oh, God, why am I reading this? I got so many other things I need to be reading. And I just plowed through it and went, okay, am I done yet? Because I was actually surprised at how tedious it was for me to read it again, because I just feel like, I don't know, I think there's so many things wrong with the story, and just, I don't know why I'm supposed to care about the story. Like, nothing, there's no anchor for me to care, because it's all about all these heroes doing all this crazy stuff that I have no. I mean, it's just like it's so over the top. Everything. I don't get it.
Well, let me ask you, Brian. Did you enjoy Marvel's Civil War?
Oh yeah.
Reading this after the Civil War, you kind of can see parallels where you got different factions over different ideals going head to head. So, to me, it's kind of in the same ideal.
While the government's not regulating them, it sure doesn't like them anymore.
To me, it was the perfect parable to the overabundance. Not I would say overabundance, but the image universe taking over in the 90s. And when this came out, it was just, I thought, the perfect parable showing the over excess of some of the heroes. And, you know, so that's the way I read it. I read it, and then he brought it all back using, to me, perfect characterizations of Superman, Wonder Woman, and to me, one of the greatest uses of Bruce Wayne without the bat suit. I mean, when he finally dons the bat suit at the end of the book, I almost didn't want that. I loved the Bruce Wayne that he gave me, you know, the broken Bruce Wayne in the exosuit, doing what he was doing, keeping Gotham and following the way he did. So to me, that's the way I read it. And to me, that's the power I got of it, because he was kind of using, like I said, a parable to show the over excess of the 80s, and then trying to bring it back and showing why that, I won't say why it was bad, but, you know, trying to mix that then with the sensibilities of the Trinity. So that's why I found it powerful.
I think I would not go as far to say that if any other artist would draw this, you know, we wouldn't be talking about it, because I think one of the charms of the DC characters, and Frank Miller hit this, you know, right on the nail, right on the head with Batman: Dark Knight Returns, is you can really do these kind of stories, these final stories. You know, like Frank Miller, when he was writing Dark Knight, he said, you know, Robin Hood has his last story, and all these American icons, or just icons in general, they always have that last story, like Excalibur, King Arthur, and all that. So this, you know, they're playing along those lines of this is DC's Ragnarok. You know, this is their final story, and so on that aspect, it works probably more so than the story itself, because it really does do well to create that sort of like, oh my God, is this what the DC universe could become? So I think on that plane or that path, it does stand out incredibly well, and it was, you know, it works. I do have to agree. I think it suffers a little on second readings, and this is not my second reading. I can't even count how many times I've read it, and I'm not sure why now. You know, when I read it this time, and even the previous time before, I think we even started the podcast, I think I read it. I think it lost kind of its charm, and I don't know, and I don't know why. Not in the art, but the story kind of lost something for me, and I don't know if it was because it's kind of like a train that starts here and needs to end over here, and there's such a direct path, like I don't know. What am I trying to say? It goes from A, B to C very well, but I think it goes so well that I'm already anticipating the journey the end as soon as I open the first page. As soon as I'm reading it, I maybe it's because I know it so well that I can't enjoy it anymore. If that makes sense.
I know exactly what you're saying, Peter, because it was to the point where I was reading it also, even though I still, it doesn't suffer that much from me, but I was anticipating the parts that I love. I was like, okay, when am I finally going to get to that Batman scene? When am I going to get to the scene with, you know, this scene or that scene? So I think I know what you're saying.
Well, and I suffer from that in a different way, only because I've listened to the radio drama so many times, and it's subtly different. So when I reread this, not only have I read this maybe 10, 20 times, but to listen to the audio drama probably at least as many times as that, there's just some things about it that I hear those voices in my head, and I expect something to happen, and it's written slightly different here, and it just doesn't get me quite as excited, but I still love it, if that makes sense. Like, I love to have it. I love that I've known it. I love that I've listened to it and read it, but it does just lose something after reading it so many times now.
Well, I just am a huge DC Universe fan, and there's just so many different stories going on in the book besides the main story. I mean, Alex Ross put so much stuff into the background here. So many of the other characters who you may not know, if you know anything about DC Universe, you get an extra wink and a nod. I mean, there's like a whole books of annotations of background characters. Like, you know, there's scenes with, you know, Batman's son and, you know, Robin's son, and you see Robin's daughter, and they're interacting with each other in the backgrounds there, and you just added things like that. It works on to so many levels. I mean, I just get a, you know, you big geek-asm look at this thing. I mean, there's so many things to look at in the background of these pages are just beautiful. And it's cool now that we've gotten to know Sal, you know, and he was the inspiration for Captain Marvel. That's just classic.
Yeah.
I think some of the what you just said, Pants, it kind of also works against it. You know, I think even on the forum thread that kicked off this whole conversation, somebody brought up the point of, you know, when you get to issue 3 and you see the big reveal of Captain Marvel standing over Superman, if you don't know who that character is, there's nothing really in the story that kind of makes the reader go, well, oh, that's okay, he's just as strong as Superman. I mean, I guess you can take the whole he knocked him over, he knocked him down out of flight and all that, but I think some of that kind of gets lost if you're new to this, and even some of the other subtle jokes here and there, like even Superman disappearing. He's in the Batcave with Batman, and then he goes and flies off, and Batman turns around and goes, "Oh, that's what that feels like." I mean, you can understand it because the story is written, the panel is written, and the artwork. You can get it from that, but you don't. I don't know if you get the deeper meaning or the deeper connection to others times when Batman would do that to everybody. So I think it kind of loses something in how steep it is in DC lore. Whereas the Marvel, you know, not to make, I don't want to make this a comparison between the two because I think they're two totally similar but different things. Some of the events that were touched upon in the book, there's something richer about it, something a little more pure in the Marvels. Where this one is, I don't know. It's I find it difficult to see this being handed to someone new and having them get it.
Yeah, well, that's
yeah, I can see that.
That's kind of my issue with it is there's not any. I didn't feel that there was any. There were any words or there was any story that told me why I should care about what was happening. Like, this whole story, while it's clearly affecting, you know, has the potential to affect all of humanity, there's nothing that's really told from humanity's point of view. And so it's just all about these gods, if you will, fighting each other. And so I'm kind of left in the back seat going, well, all right, why? I'm not it had no emotional impact on me, and that's just my honest to God reaction. And so I was trying to understand as I was going through why I wasn't experiencing any emotion, and I think that's why.
Well, your central character really is Superman. I mean, as opposed to Marvel's where it was Phil
Sheldon.
Yeah. I mean, your central character is Superman here, and he does play both the human and the superhero role. And you know, this is not told from the Marvel's viewpoint of the ground looking up. This is told from the sky looking down. You know, and so which is why I think it as an apocalyptic tale, as a Revelations tale, that's why you get all those Bible quotes and all that. I mean, it's purposely meant to be told that way. And I think so. If you don't connect with Superman, which you've already said, he's not a character that interests you, then yeah, there's no character to sort of latch onto. Because even the Norman McKay character, he's pretty much, that's just him and the Spectre. Their exposition, their sideline.
Yeah, they're your Greek chorus going through.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Yeah.
Until the end, when he kind of like reminds Superman of why he shouldn't be, doing what he's doing. I mean, but yeah, I can understand, but it's always been powerful for me. I guess because I got the in-jokes. I understood where they were going, and that's why I still love it. It still is I can see you saying you can't give this to somebody as their like first introduction into the DC Comics, whereas and I agree. I don't want to compare and contrast. You can give Marvels to somebody and say, okay, this is early Marvel. To me, this was just written with such love and such care by Mark Waid. This was almost his love letter to the DC universe, using all of the things that he loved, throwing in all those I'm sure Alex had a lot to do with it too.
Well, I was going to say, Alex really is the main drive behind the story. Mark Waid pretty much, I think, was, while they were both plotters, Mark Waid was more the dialogue guy, more than anything.
So, yeah. So, I mean, a love letter from both of these guys to the DC Universe, so.
Well, and even some of the characters that I was just on the fringe familiar with, it still, I knew them barely, but still made sense to me with how it was written, that I understood what was going on, and looked up some information on them as time went on. This was definitely during the internet age, so you could do that. You could read this and I don't know that character, let me look it up. And I was able to do that. I mean, I do have a love for the DC Universe, but I still wanted to learn more about it just from reading this. So while I agree, I don't think you can give it to somebody new. If they have any kind of knowledge of the main DC Universe characters, I don't think it suffers that greatly because of the storytelling.
And it's nice they're still using it in stories today.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a whole Justice Society arc going on right now, based on what things happen in Kingdom Come. So it's relevant, even though it, technically happened, as an Elseworld story.
Yeah.
Murd, what we haven't heard from you yet.
Yeah, I don't have much to say.
Why is that?
I haven't reread it.
Well, I mean, do you remember any of it? Do you remember how you felt reading it the first time, or
faintly? I mean, it's going back 12 years now. I haven't read it since then. You're
making all those DC fans out there cry.
Just flipping through the pages here, I definitely get the impression that if I read it again, I'd get a lot more out of it this time. I mean, not only because I know a lot more about the DC Universe, but also a few things more about real life. Things like idealism, disappointment, things like that.
Wow.
So you only read it once?
Yep.
Okay.
I have a copy of the same comicology book Shane was describing, but haven't read it.
What about Matt?
Well, I don't know. I mean, like I said, looking at this now after reading Civil War, I kind of got that idea and trying to put some of those characters, where would the Trinity fall if it was DC Civil War? But, I mean, I do remember the two characters I could care the least about were the Spectre and the priest going around. I was more interested in reading as if I were them instead of having them almost being with them. I'd rather it just be me going through. But I thought it was an interesting in a way. It does kind of seem, if the heroes were around, if there were superheroes, almost there would have to be that stage in a lifetime where somebody took it too far, but then did they not take it too far? Like what's his name, Magog?
Magog.
That he became the idea of what a hero should be in Superman's old school. I mean, he's not willing to kill, he's not willing to go the extra mile, and that's what the people are looking for. But is that really what we should have? And then it's interesting that there's always going to be someone that takes it too far, and where the line should be drawn, and eventually should you come back to the old moral standings. I found fascinating by reading this.
What did you feel about the? Since you've gone away from the happy Batman, what did you feel about their portrayal of Batman?
You know what? I didn't mind it because, again, he's kind of gotten to the point where, he keeps saying Bruce Wayne, but here, I always saw it as Bruce Wayne is the facade. He's always Batman, and in this, just because he didn't wear the costume doesn't mean that he's still not Batman. I mean, they called him Bruce, and that's the way it was. But to me, he still had the essence of he was Batman. He didn't need the costume. It was the man under the costume. But you know what I'm saying, that the mask of Bruce Wayne, even though that's the face he's wearing, it was still just a mask.
Yeah, and that's what he pretty much said. He said, once I got outed and they knew who I was, then I didn't need Batman anymore.
And at the very end, the secret identity was just an extra tool, but he lost that, and he was able to gain something else to take its place. So even though he had the sentries out there instead of him going out there, he was still able to do an efficient job of what he always set out to do, and that was protect Gotham.
Well, and you still see how other heroes view him, because you still have that line, which I think is brilliant, where Ollie says, does Batman ever not have a plan? I mean, he still calls him Batman, so in their mind, he's still Batman.
I always like it how this is the second or third storyline where Batman kind of has his own group of people, and Green Arrow is there with him. So there's always, how close are those two really? They get in arguments a lot in the series of Justice League, but they always seem to be on the same side.
Yeah,
it definitely owes a lot to Dark Knight Returns. I think one of the other reasons why it sort of stands out is Elseworlds were in fashion before and after this, and it was rare that you got one that really hit huge. And this one, on the strength of the creators, obviously, hit incredibly huge. So, and that whole Green Arrow aspect of Batman, and it's pushing things that Frank Miller started in Dark Knight Returns.
you even had that though in Infinite Crisis when they were going off to find the brother Eye, and Ollie's like, well, what am I doing here? And he's like, I just wanted to see if you'd come. I mean, those two are always paired up ever since Brave and the Bold type days. They have a dichotomy about them that they had similar upbringings and similar circles that I guess they could have traveled in.
Do you think, not to step on you, but part of that is because pretty much the teams that they're on, they're usually the two non-powered members of the team?
Kind of. And while they have idealistic issues that they may disagree about, they still, in the end, kind of accomplish the same thing using similar tactics.
Well, they're heroes, and I think that's why Batman, or Bruce would use him on a team. It's no matter what, he's not gonna let you down. He's gonna do everything he can to do what he can, and so that's to me. I mean, we even go to right now, Batman and the Outsiders. Lately in the last couple issues, Green Arrow's been there too. So they're still using that whole Batman Ollie thing.
Do you guys see this as where the Trinity kind of would need to go? That it's two opposing one type of thing in certain situations? There are ideals that, at the end of the day, Wonder Woman and Superman have more of the ideals together, and then you have the third wheel.
I think they do, but you always need that more human aspect that Batman would bring to it. The point of view that he doesn't understand about being a god, about being all-powerful, things that he has experienced growing up. While Superman and Wonder Woman have tragedy, have deaths in their lives and stuff, it's still different for them. They're so much more, I don't want to say above, because they really are thought of as the same, but they really are more above because of their creation, their power, and Bruce just is able to keep up with them with what he can do as a human.
I forget if it's in here, but how Diana always calls him Cal. Mm-hmm. And Bruce always calls him Kent, so it's kind of
or Clark.
Yeah, and he does it more of an
He thumbs it at him.
Yeah,
almost.
kind of like
Yeah, he's always digging him.
Yeah.
Clark isn't your real name. That's and he won't call him by his birth name.
or he doesn't really call him Superman too much either. That
No, it's always just Clark.
because I always got the impression that the idea of Superman is just way too big that even Superman is not Superman, and to call him that is just. I mean, maybe that's illustrated with the Infinite Crisis line of the last time you made any whatever was when you were dead.
Real inspiration was when you died.
Yeah, so in a way, I kind of get the impression that even Batman doesn't think that Superman lives up to the name Superman and this idea that he is the greatest hero in the DC universe.
Well, that's why one of the reasons I'd never understood, because and correct me if I'm wrong, please, that the epilogue they put in the trades was never in the book itself. They did not have that epilogue. There was
That
not
is
the
correct.
Okay,
Yeah, the scene with them in Planet Krypton.
Planet Krypton.
that was not in there.
and I never understood why, because I believe that is such a perfect coda to this book that it sums up everything that this book. I won't say everything that this book was about, but it puts such a nice end piece on it to explain the Trinity, to explain exactly what Shane just said about you had the warrior, you had the all-powerful, and then you had the human and not one of them, but the sum of all three of them were what makes what makes them a great team or the Trinity, because you have not one of them has all the answers. Let's put it that way. Each of them has their flaws, and each of them has their strengths. And I still to this day don't understand why that was not put in the book, because when I read this, I was like, oh, that's such a perfect ending, other than the one that we got with the book. So I don't know.
Okay.
I wonder if some of some of my misgivings about it now are colored by the rumors, that Mark Waid and Alex Ross had a big feud over this, and I don't know how true it is and where it stems from, but because in that last chapter that Jamie's talking about, when they're sitting there for dinner, it's the one where Wonder Woman says, it's the page where Wonder Woman says, "I'd like you to be the child's godfather." And the very next panel, if you look in the back behind Wonder Woman, where the word balloon says "me," I don't know what to say. That's Alex Ross drawing. That's Alex Ross drawing himself, pointing a finger at Mark Waid, and I assume maybe the editor or something like that. And apparently, that was his way of putting in there the whole. I had a feud with these guys, and this was his. I don't know if it was over the sequel, if it was over the story itself. But I remember seeing that Easter egg and having it pointed out somewhere, and when you look at it, it's like, oh yeah, there is a guy there pointing his fingers at a guy that looks like Mark Waid, and Alex Ross used to have hair like that. And
in the annotations, it actually says, behind Diana, I'm screaming at Dan Raspler and Mark Waid.
Yeah, but not giving an explanation to why. So,
Right.
I mean, everybody would say, well, those feuds, it's probably not true. But it's like, well, I mean, there's got to be some truth to it if he's doing that, and if he's saying that in the annotations. I
always
mean,
thought
I don't know what it's about, but...
I thought it had something to do with actually the sequel with Kingdom, if I'm not mistaken. Something along the lines of how Alex Ross didn't have anything to do with it, thought it was, the way it ended. I could be wrong. That's what my recollections of it from 10 years ago.
Well, when did the sequel come? When did that sequel come out? And when did he draw those pages?
That's also true.
All I know is that the biggest disappointment of the whole book is that it opens with the death of Wesley Dodds, and we don't even get to see Sandman the whole time. I mean, what a jip. The best character in the DC universe. He's not even in the book.
Well, I will agree. It took me a little bit of getting used to Norman McKay and his role in the whole thing, and I was disappointed. But I guess that's just the way they did it to more humanize some aspect of the story.
Right.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I understand its place and I'm the one in the room that sort of, when people make lists and this one always gets up there with other things like Watchmen and Dark Knight, and I go, well, I don't know, I guess I'm the one of the minority that thinks that while it is fantastic, I don't know if I can consider it in that league. And here we are how many years later, and I still sort of feel the same way.
I liked how you saw Orion almost look exactly like Darkseid.
Which is the way you should.
Yeah.
And then that was one that they put into the trade. Those pages
That
weren't
4
in the
pages,
book.
was not in the original.
But they weren't near as essential as that last chapter.
No. When I saw the extra pages that they put in after having almost studied these the books, I liked them. They were nice, but it was almost one of those where you get the DVD with the extra scenes, and then you go, well, those scenes didn't add anything. I can see why they hit the cutting room floor. They didn't hurt it, but I can see why maybe they cut it out. But like you said, that last chapter was a mystery to me why that wasn't there. Unless that was just all set up for the Kingdom miniseries, which I don't know. I because I didn't touch it because Alex Ross wasn't part of it.
Does any of the collections have this little picture of Sal in the curtain call with all the...
Yep.
I love there's a quote here. It says, since posing for the role of Captain Marvel, Sal has endured more ribbing from his friends than any other single model, including nicknames like the Big Red Cheese and having a San Diego Comic-Con badge registered without his knowledge as William S. Batson. I love that kind of stuff.
I looked at that picture, and when I see him in the book, I still don't think of Sal. I just think of Fred
Really?
McMurray.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Look here.
There's one, and I've actually seen another one where I can see Sal in it, but I totally agree with you, Murda. I see Fred McMurray the entire time.
Wow.
See, I knew that. I thought I heard that Sal was somebody in this book, but I didn't remember who. And then when I was reading it, the first page, I'm like, oh, that's Sal. It seemed immediately obvious to me, but
I can see it here when he's looking up at Superman taking off to stop the bomb.
Yeah.
That's exactly the one that I saw.
And this one right here, that's
Yep.
clearly Sal.
Yep.
No question about it.
Where Lexus has him by the ear.
Yeah, after the
Okay.
bug.
Yeah, Mr. Mind.
Can you read
Well, that
that?
That's the reason why Alex Ross is Alex Ross. I mean, even though he's doing photorealism, the man knows how to manipulate photorealism to his benefit. He makes the characters look like the characters. He doesn't make the characters look like the models, even though you can see it, sort of. You'll never look at who he uses as Wonder Woman and go, oh, I know exactly who that is, because, number one, he uses his own models. Number two, he's great at making them fit the story, making them fit the page. They don't feel like they're disconnected from each other. Like when a character touches another character, they actually look like they're on the same plane, and that's a lot of the faults of people who use photorealism but don't go that extra mile to really make it work. Alex Ross makes it work, and that's why he's Alex Ross and everybody else is everybody else.
Sponsored by AlexRossArt.com.
Well, and
I definitely agree. I think I'd much rather read Marvels again than Kingdom Come, I think. If somebody put both of them together, I think I'd read Marvels first.
I love Marvels, but I'll always go to Kingdom Come first.
Yep, same here.
Same here, yep.
I thought Marvels was okay, so I'd definitely go with this.
I'd go for Kingdom Come first because I've reread Marvels more recently.
Well, obviously, to me, I think Marvels is one of the finest comics ever. I don't know that any other superhero comic, anyway, inspires the amount of emotion that I get when I read Marvels. And so that, for me, is a clear winner. Again, I really think that I don't know. I forget what I was going to say.
So, there you go. That's probably going to be the most anticlimactic wait for a book ever.
That was it?
The UN building is supposed to be the Hall of Justice, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And the Gulag is the Hall of
Legion of
Doom.
Doom. Yeah.
Legion of Doom, that's awesome.
Well, it's almost hard. I mean, you don't want to disappoint disappoint anybody, but I've read and reread it so many times. I don't know what else to say other than I love it.
I'll be honest, and that's why I never thought we should actually do this as a book of the month, because it's one of those books that's been so
Talked about,
analyzed and overanalyzed, and book of the month should be we're showing people some new stuff that maybe they haven't picked up. Even though we did Marvels and we did some other ones that are big time, I always thought this was one that maybe if we did a special like we're doing now, it would be good. But I never thought, if we had ever brought it up, I would have, just said no. Let's stay away from Kingdom Come. Let's find something else like Golden Age that maybe people hadn't read, and deserves some recognition. So,
well, and I have to say, I don't know how many in the room have done it, and I doubt most have. But I've read almost the entire novel. I didn't finish it yet, and I've tried to. I've restarted and read it through, but it in that regard, it's kind of anticlimactic. While it expands a lot of the characterization and a lot of things that happen, since I know the outcome of the story, it is a little harder to get through the novel. But if you ever get the chance to listen to the radio drama, I love it. I absolutely love it.
Because we did it 2 years ago on the ride to Pittsburgh.
Yep.
That was very cool.
It's a lot of fun. It's something that I can listen to time and time again.
And you have.
I drove my wife nuts one time going up to Connecticut listening to it, up and back. I don't know how she ever put up with it. I listened to it today at work, and I don't know. I like that it's a full cast, and it holds true to the story pretty good. There's some things that as they act it out, I don't know if it's because it's the actors or the way it was written, but some of it sounds a little bit more forced in that. But I kind of took that as the actors not knowing the source material or the universe quite as well as what we all do. But if you ever get the chance, I think it's one of the best radio dramatizations in recent time to listen to.
You had said, Pat, something about Angel Medina was in here.
Yes.
I finally found him.
Okay.
It's right there next to
Oh
Phil,
my God! Yes.
right next to Phil Sheldon in the scene where Phil Sheldon shows up.
Oh, man.
What? Well, that's
It's,
after he comes back and
Yeah, it's right after Superman comes back,
Okay,
and he's
so it's
doing
towards
the
the end of the
press
first issue.
conference. It's beginning of the second issue.
Oh,
It's like
second
four
issue.
or 5 pages in the second issue.
Oh, cool.
He asks anyone, would that include Magog? Superman, are you truly prepared to confront Magog in light of what has gone before?
Yeah, he's holding the Daily Planet microphone. Yeah.
So, yeah. I do agree with you, Pan, so it is fun once you've read it and read it a few times, and to sit down and to just go through it and find all of the...
Oh, yeah.
Like, for God's sake, there's Bjork in one of the background scenes.
Yeah, all the people in the background.
I love looking in Planet Krypton and trying to figure out every little piece of everything on every wall. I just stare at the Hall of Doom every time I turn to the Gulag spread.
I mean, we got Silverblade, the Village People, all in the same panel. Baron Bedlam, Lobo, Viral Docs. Rorschach is in. I know he's in the background there somewhere.
Sherlock Holmes is in the background.
Yeah. It's just so much
Well,
fun.
and even one of the most talked about panels where, is it the Ray that's supposed to be doing something with another
plastic?
character?
Oh, yeah.
And in the radio thing, Norman McKay actually says, well, what are those two people doing back there? Them? What are they, dancing or fighting or something like that? And I just cracks me up that they threw something like that in there just to bring it out a little bit more.
Alex Ross says it's a rape scene.
Yeah.
Of course, you got the Cosby Kids.
Now, where are they? I don't think I've ever seen
They're
them.
running amok in Gotham. When you see the Sentinels come down, when you first see the Sentinels in Gotham,
You mean the Sentries?
the Sentries, yeah. Those are the Cosby Kids.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Good heavens.
I forget, with the Kingdom, how did Gog was formed from that explosion in Kansas? Is that how it was? Don't everyone answer at once.
I don't remember.
Like I said, I didn't read Kingdom,
Oh.
so it didn't really.
I read
I
it,
read
but
it. It's been so long.
there were 2 or 3 of the issues that I enjoyed. The rest weren't. It was fantastic.
I think you're right. I think if I remember correct, I mean, I may have looked through some, but I think you're correct on that.
I think
something along those lines that's how he was created.
Do you think that's where Waid saw this story as going? Or do you think that was just kind of
I don't know.
slapped
I
together?
think
I
it was really slapped together. It was like one of those, hey, we need a sequel. What are we going to do? And hey, it's a 5th week event. Let's do Kingdom. And I don't know. I've never been a fan to be honest.
Well, it introduced Hyper Time, which I still think was not a bad idea.
No, I'll agree with you, Murd. It had potential.
Pisses me off that it's become like a 4-letter word around DC. And if you bring up Hyper Time at a DC Nation panel,
Yep.
Didio will immediately go, next question!
Yep.
I just want to go up and smack him.
Well, and that's sort of, I actually read something, I'm looking online, they said that, again, it brought up the whole, that the sequel was the reason why they feuded, and Mark Waid wanted to do Kingdom, Alex Ross and Gene Ha wanted to do something that was more about, like, the mythology as opposed to what eventually came about. But that's also another reason why I think it, for me, is a little tarnished, is because DC did actually, like, I know they're using it now in JSA, but there were a lot of years that went by that Kingdom Come was, like, they didn't want to touch on it. They would maybe bring little characters here and there, or you'd see the Superman with the black background S-shield, but it, even Elseworlds became a dirty word for a while. So, I mean, they really kind of distanced themselves from the book, and it, it was always like, well, I never understood sort of why, and it always kind of confused me, like, why would you try to force it into the continuity to begin with if all those problems are gonna arise, and number two, why distance yourself from it? So I think it's sort of like almost like people are kind of reclaiming it now. It's not even that they're because they grew up on it or whatever, but it for a couple of years there, it wasn't the golden child that it was at the time it came out.
Well, I think now that you have the 52 Earths that they can play with, you've already seen some of those Earths in at the end of 52, where you saw some Elseworlds type stories that were there. So
is the Kingdom Come universe one of the 52?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is it Earth 22 or 23, something like that?
21, I thought.
Wasn't the Starman in Justice Society from?
Yeah, he's from
Yeah.
that Earth.
Okay.
mm-hmm. Yeah, because you see him, he's in a couple pages.
Actually, I think
in
he
the bar
was.
scene.
We're not sure which Earth he's originally from. He sort of passed through the Kingdom Come Earth on his way to the mainstream Earth.
So yeah, I think that's more along the lines of more the reason they're doing it now, it's coming out now than before, because like you said, if they were going to try to pigeonhole it into the continuity, to me, Elseworlds were never supposed to be pigeonholed into current continuity.
Right. They felt like they had to legitimize or dignify them by making them actual parallel universes instead of just stories.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what I feel about that.
No, I mean, to me, that's why I loved Elseworlds, because they could take stuff that you knew and they could just go run with it in totally different directions. And
Like what ifs?
yeah, and that's why I loved Elseworlds. I loved the concept when it first came out, and I still, those are still some of my favorite, DC specials, if you want to call them specials, out there. So.
What irritates me is they'll have some good story. Like I always think of the son of Batman, I guess, or son of the demon, or whatever they call it. But how they decide, well, we can't have that in continuity. We can't have Batman have a bastard son out there, so we'll make that in Elseworlds. But I thought it was a great story that they could have just kept it in his history, which they kind of brought it back later. But
that was kind of pre-Elseworlds, because
yeah,
that definitely came out before Gotham by Gaslight.
Yeah. Yes.
And that's the thing. Like, I think trying to connect it to the continuity I think it takes away some of the story to it, because it's a fable. It's not necessarily meant to be. I don't know. Like a continuation of events. It's a parable, like somebody said before. And all of a sudden it actually the DC universe has to steer its way that way. It's kind of like, I think it works better left on its own.
Well, do you think they ever tried to pigeonhole The Dark Knight Returns as the future of, like, the end story for Batman?
They certainly added elements to the DC universe.
Because, I mean, you could argue now that's the all-star Batman universe.
Yeah. I mean, the whole Superman-Batman feud came out of Dark Knight Returns. The character of Sarah Essen, which was
Gordon's wife.
He was Gordon's wife in Dark Knight Returns, and he cheated on his first wife with her in Batman Year One. So it's they used elements of it, but I don't know. They seem to shy away from that one more than this.
Well, there you have it.
Hope that was worth the wait.
Shall we move on?
Sure.
At least the listeners will learn about pestering us for stuff.
That's
now.
right.
Now, great moments in CGS history.
Episode 77 with Joe Kubert.
Was it because of your long-standing association with DC that you seldom, if at all, worked with Marvel?
Yeah, I think that's probably true. DC has treated me. Look at Paul Levitz, who's the big mucky muck up there. Used to be my assistant when I was an editor. So I know Paul really well. I know most of the people up there who are in pretty good positions now when they first started. So having been around this long is a terrific advantage. And the people up at D.C. have always treated me really, really well. I consider Paul Levitz, as a matter of fact. I know a lot of people, and there are not a lot of people that I'd call friend. Paul is one of them.
So what's the salary for the title Muckamuck? What's the qualifications?
A lot of bucks for Mucky Muck.
Peter's so clever.
That's such a great interview.
Yes,
Yeah,
it is.
I love that one.
If you have not listened to it, go back and listen to that. You won't be disappointed.
So we have our books from Caliban that we can quick talk about, and he sent these for Christmas to, I think, most of us. This is not going to be, obviously, a huge talk about 2000 AD. We want to save that for later, but we didn't want to sit on this any longer. So some of us have read their copies, so who wants to start?
Oh, I'll start.
All right.
I got a copy of Button Man, The Killing Game by John Wagner and Arthur Ranson. And, well, Caliban, Eamonn really has me pegged. He knew exactly what to send me, and man, this was awesome. I mean, this was just like reading a Vertigo book. The real quick rundown is the main story is about a guy who is a killer. He got invited to participate in this game where basically rich guys have people and they tell you where to go and what the rules are, and then basically you just have to stay alive, and then you get a whole bunch of money if you stay alive, and then time goes by, and then your phone rings again, or you have a special note somewhere that says, "Oh, now you got to go here and maybe kill this guy or whatever." And the story is about how he wants to get out of the game and how he has to do that. And it was excellent, really, really good. The mood, there's something about I don't know, something about the European ability to set a mood. When I watch European films, or I read this, or I read some of the English writers in Vertigo, man, they just know how to like creep you out and get you in a place where it's haunting. And this was exactly like that, and just very, very good. And I really, really enjoyed it. Next.
Okay, we weren't sure if you were...
I wanted to ask you about that when you said it was a game where you get a note and you go search for the next guy. Anything akin to that 80s movie Gotcha with Anthony Edwards? Did you ever see that?
I never saw it.
It's set on a college campus, and it's very similar, and I just wondered how similar that came, which came out first, if there was an influence there from the writer or anything.
This is I didn't even look at the date on here. 1992.
Oh, well after the movie.
Okay, who's next?
I'll go. I have here D.R. Unquinch's Totally Awesome Guide to Life, featuring work by Alan Moore and Alan Davis. And there's a combo you can't go wrong with. So Eamon definitely, once again, he knows all our tastes, apparently, because this was right up my street. I mean, Alan Moore, enough said, and Alan Davis, I've loved his work ever since I started reading comics back in the early 90s with Excalibur. And so this gives me a taste of what he was doing before that. Basic premise, it's It's the ultra-destructive misadventures of a couple of alien juvenile delinquents. It's like Beavis and Butthead with a thermonuclear capacity. They're also much, much smarter and from outer space. Their names are DR, his real name is Waldo Dobbs. They call him DR. It stands for Diminished Responsibility. And his nearly mute sidekick, Quinch, who is really just about as smart as DR is, except for some reason his immensely deep thoughts come out as right. That's the only word he ever says, pretty much. And it has them getting into adventures like they enlist in the army and get shipped off to the slime jungles of Goyogi, which is basically Vietnam world. And, they blow lots of things up there. And they go to Hollywood and try to shop around a screenplay. DR falls in love with some goody two-shoes girl at college, and then there's like a Saving Silverman scenario where Quinch tries to get him out of the relationship. Yeah, it's pretty. It's mostly for laughs, of course, but it's intelligent humor, as you'd expect from the mind of Alan Moore. And Alan Davis, of course, draws really awesome-looking aliens and alien environments and alien weapons, and he just draws really awesome everything. To boil it down to its simplest element there. And I read it on the plane ride back from Orlando, and it made it go very fast. On the cover it says it features death, extremely painful death, genocide, nuclear weapons for the home, the art of total destruction, useful hints on arson, 101 uses for a flamethrower, making friends with a pyromaniac, how to express yourself with weapons, obesity is fun, spitting, and how to be incredibly offensive. And it succeeds in bringing all these things across very well.
Sounds like most kids growing up.
Cool.
So, yes, thank you, Eamon, for a very entertaining read that I probably would not have discovered otherwise.
All right, I guess I'll go next. I got a collection of Judge Dredd stories. This one is titled Dredd versus Death. Stories by John Wagner, Alan Grant, and all drawn by Brian Boland. I had not read a whole lot of Brian Boland sequentials. What are you laughing at?
I was just going to say, did he have to use a magnifying glass to read it? Or?
Okay, get it out of your system.
I'm sure they didn't charge 150.
It's just funny that it just keeps coming back.
Splash page, 2 inches. Splash page, 2 inches. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
But yeah, I haven't really read much Brian Boland sequential art other than The Killing Joke that I can remember. So this was actually a great treat to get this. And the main part of the trade is the Judge Death story. I knew nothing about Judge Dredd nor Judge Death, but this Judge Death story is really fantastic. I mean, it's drawn wonderfully, but it's really kind of creepy too there. It's like very nice. Just wonderful storytelling. And
is it creepy because it's large enough to be seen?
No.
Eating the dead horse, man.
Yes. Look it up. But then there's a couple other stories. These are all from really early 2000 ADs. Some of them like as 50 to 52. That's really early on in the run because it's now like over 2,000 issues. And there's a couple other single stories. First Lunar Olympics, War Games. The Oxygen Board is really a cool story. It happens when you don't pay your oxygen bill. Just use your imagination. Then there's the Face-Changing Crimes. And he's got really cool drawings of old-time characters, Laurel and Hardy, Charlie Chaplin. Later on, you see the Marx Brothers. It's just beautifully illustrated. So, yes, I'm a big Brian Boland fan, so I got a huge kick out of this, Eamon, so thank you very much for that.
Okay, for me, Eamon sent me a Judge Dredd called Democracy Now! It was written in 2 chapters, so it was actually a pretty quick read. Written by John Wagner and Garth Ennis, illustrated by Jeff Anderson and John Burns. Now, what really popped out to me on this one was I've heard, especially from, I believe, Steve Bryant, how much John Burns has influenced him and how much, and I've heard many times John Burns over in England is, considered one of the top illustrators. So I was when I saw he had drawn this, I was very interested and excited to actually read this. And I will say I was not disappointed. His artwork I really do like. It's, I can see his influences on people such as Dave Gibbons, Ian Gibson, other artists like that. So it was basically a story of what would happen if they would vote for democracy in the world of Judge Dredd, and just a lot of fun. Unfortunately, and people will cringe, my exposure to Judge Dredd involves Sylvester Stallone, Jürgen Prochnow, and Max von Sydow in the movies. I've read an occasional Judge Dredd story, especially the Judge Dredd Batmans and stuff like that when he crossed over into the DC universe. So I had a little bit, not a little bit trouble, but I wasn't sure exactly how to read him, but it was a good book. Lots of nice double crosses, triple crosses, and by the end, just a really cool ending. And it ended where I want to read it some more. So I do thank you, Eamon. I guess that was your
goal.
Yeah, the goal. My God, brain not working.
Because it all comes back to 2080.
Yes. The goal of getting us to want to read more. So, thank you.
Am I the only one left?
Yep.
Okay. Mine was Judge Dredd in America by John Wagner with art by Colin McNeil. Again, to sort of hit the whole, there's a reason why each of us got what we got. This story centers around a character named America Jara, who is Puerto Rican. And
she related to you?
No. But it definitely, like when I read those, when you read the family, her birth, and all this, you're like, oh, okay, now I know why he sent this one to me. But in the long run, it actually turns out to be it's a highly political story. Judge Dredd rarely shows up in it, and the whole thing is that she grows up to be a terrorist, a democracy activist, and a terrorist. And there's a guy that's a family friend that also grew up, sort of side by side with her, and he's of course in love with her, and they separate after a while, and he becomes this famous famous musician, and he's wealthy, and then she comes back into his life, and it goes from there. Obviously I don't want to say what happens, but it's a lot about because like these stories take place obviously in America, and I was reading an interview where John Wagner said, a lot of these stories were written in America because they sort of felt that they had more weight because of it, and it's part political and it's part romantic, and I was like, wow, this is really incredible, and the artwork is beautiful. Funny enough, in that same interview, the editor either of this or some other Judge Dredd books said that it's probably the best Judge Dredd story ever written. So when I read that, I went, oh crap, well, I don't want to read anything else then if this is the best, if it goes downhill from here. So, but no, it was good. It was really, really well told, and I'm kind of glad it wasn't necessarily about the judges themselves, because it made me more interested in the judges. So I'm sure there's, because I read that same Batman crossover that Jamie mentioned, and that was the only one I ever read. But that one's a little more straightforward in its storytelling, I think. So, an excellent book. It was written around 1990, 91 maybe. It's really good. I really enjoyed it.
And there it is. That's our 2000 AD wrap up.
I have one more real quick. I had wanted to do this when we did the mailbag. I guess 2, 3, 4, whatever, however many episodes ago we did mailbag. I'd gotten in the mail, or we had gotten in the mail, a book called Peckerwood. This is from Rob Dunlap and Pete Lumley, and they're starting a series of books now. This is the first, called Peckerwood 24 Minutes, and the synopsis is Agent Jackass has 24 minutes to abduct a hitman, raid a candy factory, save a panda, fly to Europe, have his hair done, and prevent World War III. Yup, he's going to need some help. They had done, I guess, a book called Tosser, and it says, Tosser, Rod, and Horny are desperate for work, so when Jack offers them the acting gig of a lifetime, they jump at the chance. But how can they survive when they're up against the Englishman, Peckerwood's most notorious criminal mastermind? The fate of the planet hangs in the balance, and the clock is ticking. Or at least it would be ticking if it wasn't digital. I really enjoyed this book. It was a lot of fun. I want to pick up the first two books. Seems to be a series, and they are going to have these other two books available. This book comes out in June from in previews, and they are actually going to be. I just reread the little letter they sent me. They're going to be in New York at the Comic-Con, and they'll also be in San Diego. So stop by. It's Ablaze Media, Peckerwood, 24 minutes. Check it out. It's reminds me a lot of the Jim Mahfood type artwork. His Girl Scouts, I guess it was, with lots of naughty jokes and just overall goofy fun. So that sounds like your cup of tea. Stop by and check them out. Blaze Media.
All right, this Stump the Rios was sent in by J.K. Very mysterious J.K.
Rowling?
I was going to say.
Question number 1, Marvel. Name the Fear Lords.
Name the Fear Lords? Like a billion of them.
I never even heard of the Fear Lords.
They're from...
Yeah, there's like Despair and Sloggoth and Koros and Dormammu and I don't know how many he wants.
He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Okay, I can help you here, Peter.
And Death? I don't know.
Zippy.
Go ahead.
Okay. Okay, well, you said Despair. I'm thinking Nightmare.
That's correct.
Let's see, there's Nox.
Correct.
The Dweller in Darkness.
Yep.
The Scarecrow?
No.
Okay, well,
Mrs. King?
The Scarecrow, yes, not the Iron Man villain, but there was a supernatural Scarecrow who did show up at one of their meetings and told them to lay off Earth.
So that you're wrong there, pal. Yeah. It's 7 of them.
Did I say the Dweller in Darkness yet?
Yep. Yes.
Okay.
2 more.
Dweller in Semi-Darkness. The Dweller at Dusk.
Twilight.
Twilight.
You giving up?
I can't think of any others.
How about the Lurking Unknown?
I hate that.
And Kalaku.
Sounds like a wrestler.
All he does is lurk.
So, Peter, you got 1 out of 6.
Stumped.
Okay, question 2. DC. Name the Lords of the Ultra Realm.
Oh, Christ in heaven.
I don't think he was one, but...
There's like 20 of them, or 12 or something.
He's got 1,
Nice.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
See? I got that right.
How many were there? 12?
No idea. I don't even know where. I can't remember. Pat Broderick, and I forget who the writer was, but I don't remember.
Mer, do you know any of them?
I cannot help you here, Peter. I'm sorry.
Zorla, Shatragan, Mortanos, Squamontan, Meridian, Lashtar, Krishlar, Contentos, Saturana, Esosanda, Sain, and Viridium.
He just took a couple of words and crammed them
Yeah,
together.
took out the vowels.
Just hit the keyboard a couple times. Blah, 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 blah.
All right, and independent. You need this, Peter. What was the first unofficial spoof of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
The adolescent radioactive black belt hamsters.
That's correct.
Same by the independent.
No stump for you, J.K.
Yank right out of his butt.
Go back to Hogwarts.
Ooh, Who were the other ones? There was another foursome. I was
Kung Fu
the hamsters.
Kung Fu kangaroos. There was
Kung Fu kangaroos.
it's what, samurai penguins?
Funny.
Samurai Penguin.
Yep.
So, what's this in the show notes here? Something about Matt?
Yep.
Oh.
Matt has an announcement. He said he wants to.
Uh-oh.
You getting married finally?
Well, I think Brian set the precedent some time ago by when you have big milestones in your life and you announce it to the group here, you also announce it to the listener. So I thought I would coincide with that as well.
Megan's pregnant?
For probably the last year and a half, I've been debating whether or not I should take that next step in my life that is always inevitable. And I wasn't quite sure if I was ready. So I finally decided that it is the right choice. And in the last couple months, I've been putting some things together to get to where I could be. And a couple weeks ago, I finally asked the question, and I got a yes. So I am now officially a licensed private investigator in the state of Pennsylvania. Lifelong dream finally came true.
I knew it was not going to be the obvious.
I know.
one.
I never said lost my mind, went crazy.
So it's Keener PI? Cool.
Possibly. And besides, I always made this decision that whoever I was dating when I got my license, I would dump them and go on a tear. Because not only does this allow me to work in the industry on my own, it also is credentials for getting pussy. So this is a hell of a lot better to use as a pickup line.
That and $40.
I'm sorry, nerd. I used to try. I worked for my parents at a Christmas barn, but that wasn't getting me any.
My goodness.
It's funny because it's true.
Well, it's
good to see being a PI hasn't taken that edge off there, Matt.
Well,
Hasn't
congratulations.
tamed it all.
So when do you grow a mustache and move to Hawaii? That's what I don't know.
Oh yeah,
And
Magnum PI.
Say live on an estate.
I've always been more of a Remington Steele type of guy than Thomas.
Oh, so you're Laura?
No, I pretend to know what I'm doing, and somebody else is doing it for me. I just take
That
all the
instills
battles.
more confidence.
Yep.
So now, do you have a non-compete with your agency that you work for? Are you not allowed to take cases on your own?
Yes, and I cannot. Technically, I could put an open for business sign out in front of my house, but I have a clause in my contract that says 2 years after I leave the company.
Yeah,
for that time
except
period,
you know that's all BS because you're in Pennsylvania. It's a right-to-work state, so those contracts mean nothing.
From what I was told, it's all one of those. If they want to try to
No,
enforce
those
it,
contracts
but is
mean
it-
nothing.
Well, I'm also one of
We
the
actually learned about it in college.
I've learned that as much you can know everything there is about investigations, but if you don't have the time to market and get a good clientele, you're pretty much just sitting at a desk waiting for something to happen. So
Right.
I'd be foolish to tell my boss to fuck himself and start my own business. And there's a reason why I'm not working in this area. I'm working in the Philadelphia area because it would be hard to support myself in the Reading area.
That crime on cow tipping, that's hot
Yeah.
stuff.
Get some good surveillance on that. And I'm trying to find Peter's lost son, but
You haven't tripped over one of those yet?
there's so many.
Poppy.
It's not a tree; it's a forest.
There's a reason why I haven't seen Megan in a while.
That's because I dumped her ass so I can go on my tear.
Oh, did you?
Possibly. Oh, incidentally, today's also Sarah Michelle Gellar's birthday. So happy birthday!
Happy
Twist the
birthday,
knife. Twist the knife.
I know she's.
my would-be wife.
She goes, I want to make it dinner tonight. It's like, okay, can you pick up a birthday cake? She's like, whose birthday? And I just gave her a look. She goes, we're not fucking celebrating that birthday.
I notice how the F word always comes out of her mouth
Whenever Megan and Sarah Michelle Gellar are in the same sentence.
In fact, I said that I wanted to name our dog Flash Michelle Gellar, and she said, no, absolutely not.
Will Megan still come to Pittsburgh now?
No, she was going to come before.
Oh, she
anyways.
was. I thought she was going to stop by at least one day.
No, actually, her family's coming out in this neck of the woods, so we'll be crossing each other.
All right. So I guess, does that wrap us up, Peter?
Yep, we're done.
All right.
This episode was sponsored by Angry Gnome Comics. You can go check them out in Pittsburgh. They're going to have a whole slew of stuff, Victor Season, and, of course, the Short Stack, which has submissions or some work by several forum members. So make sure you pick that up. Angry Gnome Comics.
If you'd like to send us an email, it's comicgeekspeak@gmail.com, and visit our website at comicgeekspeak.com. Check out all the information you need to know about the Super Show at cgssupershow.com. To leave us a voicemail, the number is 215-279-8839. And check out our forums at thecomicforums.com. You can also find our recent episodes on worldfamouscomics.com, as well as the latest in comics news, reviews, columns, contests, and more. And as always, we are uniting the world's mightiest heroes, one listener at a time.